opened up the lobby. So we're going to be welcoming people as they come through. So I'm going to start in a moment. But thank you for joining us today. And all will be revealed as to what we're going to be doing over the next 45 minutes to give you everything you could ever hope for and need for awards writing. And we've got a really good agenda. So just bear with me a few moments while we let everybody in. And we're just opening up the lobby as well so we can let others in. Just give me this morning, if you go over to your right-hand side, you will see chats, participants, Q&A and polls. Can you do me a favor? In general chats, just say hello and so I can see who's here today. Just pop in the chat as well. There we go. Hi, everyone. Hi, Camellia. Hello, Amber. Hi, Zoe. Good to see you here. I'm going to need my glasses on for this. Hello, Rowan, as well. We have. Good to see you here. Thank you very much for joining us today. And hello, Jeremy. You're going to be on in a moment. Good to see you, Izzy, as well. Faith, hello. Katie Riley's going to be on stage, and big hello to you. Her session is going to be incredible because she's one of the best awards writer I have ever had the pleasure of chatting with as well. So we're just going to wait for just the rest of the people to just be let in through the lobby, and then I can explain what's going to happen. So Arshia is joining us. There we go. Arshia is joining us. Let me just turn. Akini, producer Akini, if you're okay to press and keep an eye on that lobby, that would be amazing. So welcome everybody. And Arshia, I know, has just joined us as well. We've just let people in through the lobby. So let me start and kick off because we've got a lot to pack into a short amount of time. Welcome to the Lunch and Learn, and this is the MMG Awards debut of a brand new category, talking to you about Festival of Media, the backstory of MMG, and also providing you with some tips, tricks, hints, everything you're going to need to make your awards season fly. It's a very complicated process, a lot of times, awards. So we're going to make this as simple as we can for you. For those that don't know me, I'm Julia Linehan. I'm the founder and CEO of The Digital Voice, and we have the pleasure of being the media partner of 2025 for Festival of Media. So it made perfect sense for us to join together and actually work on this event as a first starter of things that we're going to do this year. I'll explain the platform to you. On your right-hand side, you will see where you've got all the actions going to happen. It's a very interactive platform, so you can chat to me and to Jeremy and to Katie in the chat section. You can see who the participants are as well. You can message people individually as well. The biggest things to note are the Q&A and the poll section. Now, within the Q&As, we'll be looking at you to ask us questions during these sessions. And the best bit about it is, if I can get producer Akini to just type in a question for me, and I'll show you what you can do. I will ask a question too, and I'm just going to show you how to do it. So how many awards should I enter? Should I enter a year? How long is a piece of string? But if I ask that question, and I'm going to ask that question, and then Akini's asked question, I'd like you all now just to go over to the Q&A. We're just testing you now to use the platform. Press up on the votes of which one you'd most like answered. There we go. Akini's, what is your favorite thing about writing awards? How many? And then one vote for mine. And then more is coming through for Akini's and more for mine. So you, the audience, control which questions are asked. So thank you for that. If you head over to polls, we haven't got the active polls yet, but they are coming. So we will look out for those and we will get you into interacting with us on stage. But for now, it's my pleasure. I'm going to bring on stage Jeremy. So Jeremy, I'm coming to you. 1 second, and I will bring you live on stage. So we've got Jeremy up first, and then we're going to be going and chatting to Katie Riley. But without further ado, a man who knows everything there is to know about awards, and you, this week has been a huge week for you. A 3 a.m. a Festival of Media Football Awards. How are you feeling?
Yeah, a little bit tired, but I'm pumped for this. I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing on the excitement. The phone. We had someone who's amazing at social media helping us with the football awards, and every 2 seconds I'm seeing an Instagram post popping up. So I think we've done something good, which is wonderful. So I'm living off the adrenaline.
Good, and that's what you should do. Well, shall I hand over to you? You can obviously share your screen so that you can talk to people about the backstory of MMG, give yourself an introduction to Festival of Media, and of course, talk about the new AdTech category that Digital Voice is very proud to be behind and supporting as well.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you. I'll share my content in a bit, and I'll just
Okay,
quickly
I'll
do an
head off to
overview.
you.
Is that all right?
Lovely. I'll see you back. I'm going to come back on, and we're going to do polls for the audience and some Q&A. So I'll be back on when you give me the nod. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you. Hi everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to Julia and the Digital Voice team for having us, which is wonderful. My voice, I think, is just about holding up after constant talking, screeching from the stage last night. So I am back, ready and going. So I think, I don't know if any of you have ever entered festival or the M&M Global Awards, but I won't keep you long. Effectively, the M&M Global Awards was a traditional awards program that was part of M&M Europe back in the day. And it is 36 years old this year, which is older than everyone on my team apart from me, which makes me incredibly old. But the good news about it is we've kept it going. So we brought M&M Global into the Festival of Media portfolio, and we started Festival of Media in 2007, and it was in response to Cannes, effectively, because back then they only ever looked at the creative idea, and all the people involved in the media side of the industry were overlooked, which was quite ironic because they obviously had the bigger budgets than the creatives. So we set up a set of awards to recognise best work in media effectively around the world, and we've got the global one, a MENA one, an APAC one, a LATAM one, a North America one, and a cause one. And now we've branched into women's football, which I'll come on to at some other point because that's not relevant for today. But effectively, giving you an overview, M&M was initially set up to celebrate and recognise all of the fantastic talent and the work that was being produced by those people who were based in the UK with an international remit. Over the years, those kind of remits changed and everything went a bit regional, but there's been a huge resurgence over international media and having those hubs back where they're producing media work that goes out to a global space. So over the years, we've had lots and lots of entries and submissions from agencies and brands, but we felt actually as the ad tech sector grows and grows and grows, it's an opportunity for us to showcase some of the amazing stuff that you guys are producing, some of the amazing tools, platforms, solutions that you have for clients and agencies. And when we started talking to Julia and the team last year, we were like, we should actually work together, create a category that will allow all of the ad tech worlds to enter. And most importantly, one that where they don't have to put together a campaign video. So this is all about the work you're doing. So I'll share my screen and I'll give you a little bit of an overview of awards per se, because very much when we do these workshops, we very much want to talk about the process and why you should enter awards, whether it's our awards, whether it's Cannes, whether it's the FEs or anyone else. We just want to be able to give you a kind of few tips and a few bits of inside knowledge on what you need to do when putting together an awards submission. And secondly, we'll then talk about the category. So keep those questions in the chat going. I'll keep an eye on them as well in case anything huge comes up. But here we go with sharing my screen. I think I've taken off all the personal details. So hopefully there'll be nothing that you shouldn't see, but do let me know if that is the case. So hopefully you can all see that. I will go into a slideshow. Our designer's done a nice little bit of
Hi,
colour here.
Jeremy. It's not showing the screen at the moment. I think it's not from just check it again. You're showing the live Remo link.
Hold on. Let me go back.
Go back a second. Just
And
it's
then
showing
share.
that you can stop sharing if you press stop sharing and then just try again. And you want to share the entire, this is why we love it. They always say, Jeremy, never work with animals, children or live internet. And this is why I'll stay on stage with you until you've got that. So it comes up with share your entire screen or a window. And when you see that window, and I'll make sure.
Oh yes, got you. Share that. So share this window. Oh no, share entire screen. Sorry.
Yeah, go try that and I'll stay on with you. And if no, that's still showing there we go. Beautiful. And go from work, go. Yeah, we can, because what you see is what we see. I will get off stage again. Excellent.
Thank you, Julia. There you go. I promise I do know how to work a computer, honestly, but I love this system. Here we go. So this is a little bit of advice on submitting awards entries. So we often get asked, oh, we don't have a chance to enter because we're up against these people. The two things I would say, and this is entirely true, there will be companies that might enter 60 submissions into an awards program, and they might come away with 1 gold. There was a company in our LATAM awards in particular who entered 9 last year, and they got shortlisted with 8 of them, and they won 7 golds. So it's all done by the judges, and I'll come to the judging process a little bit later on. But awards workshop. So actually, why enter awards? That's always a big question. You say, oh, I've seen this brilliant awards program. I think we've done some great work that we'll be able to enter into this particular awards program. Then you go to your boss or you go to the person who has the budget, and they say, oh no, we're not going to do this. Give me some reasons why. And you're kind of thinking, well, in the old days, it was all about, sticking it to your rivals and being the best of the best, which to a little degree it is, but it's so much more now. So what we noticed, particularly over the last 5 or 6 years, is that there's nothing quite like, if you say to someone within your organization, that piece of work that you've done for that client is absolutely brilliant, so good that I'm going to put it in front of your peers and other clients to be judged and to be benchmarked against. That really creates a beautiful, positive working culture amongst employees. And most of the conversations we have with previous winners has always been about how they've used their wins or they've used their entry, even if they don't win and they've just been shortlisted. They use that to kind of drive positive culture. Cost-effective marketing. So, all of you guys are using various marketing and PR techniques, but actually entering an award, so if it was, anywhere between 350 and 500 pounds is, you don't get anything for that from LinkedIn, from Facebook, from Snap, from Twitter. But actually what you're getting for that money is you're getting your company and showcasing your company to a jury that is predominantly brands and agencies who are effectively your clients. So you're getting your work in front of them for what is a very good cost-effective marketing piece. And you can take that, whether you win, whether you get shortlisted, you can use that as content marketing. And what does that do also? Well, actually, if you're an award-winning business, similarly to when you're buying products as a consumer, you always look at reviews, you'll always go, which is the best one, you'll talk to peers. If a business is winning awards or is known as someone who's producing great work, you're always going to retain that best talent. People want to work for the best people. They want to work for those industries and those businesses that are very nice. So that's always a key driver. There's the obvious ones like winning new business. We know that in different regions, particularly in the APAC world, actually winning awards for them leads to new clients and new business. It also opens up. You think these judges are spending in the first round 4 to 5 hours of their own time studiously reading a number of submissions. So they're actually understanding and learning about your business. You don't even have to go to them. You're marketing to a select group of people who are going to see your work and see your business and understand how you operate. And all of these clients are constantly looking for new suppliers and new solutions and new ways to reach other audiences. So, and what it also does is if you win an award, or even if you get shortlisted, we've spoken to many of our entrants and they can go back. So, a client might go back, a Unilever may go back and say, actually, this was an award-winning piece of work. For the next piece of work, I've got this idea, but we're going to need to spend some more money. So you've got this opportunity to encourage greater client spend. And as I said, showcasing your business is so important. And every brand, every agency we talk to are constantly on the lookout for these new solutions. So that's kind of your why enter, which I think is key for any awards program you want to enter, and gives you lots of arguments and a great case to be able to put forward to your bosses to get that budget and the time to actually put together the papers. So next, I've kind of done this in a couple of 2-step ways. Step 1 is choosing the categories, which is always important. We'll come on to our new category at the moment, but I know there's quite a few categories that are probably relevant for many ad tech people as well, which is quite exciting. But the one thing we do is we create an entry handbook. And in that entry handbook, it literally explains everything you need to know about all the categories. All of the categories come with synopsis. If you don't have an entry handbook from an awards program, my advice would be don't bother entering, because they could every decent show, every decent program will have a handbook and will have information on how to enter. You'll also find there's no limit on the number of categories you could submit into. So all you have to do, and a key piece here, and we find this with a lot of people, is they may have a piece of work that was for best technology or best communication strategy, but actually it could also be used in best use of social, because social was the big driver behind it. As long as you tailor the entry to meet the criteria on that particular category, you can enter it into various categories. And as a thing that we do at M&M Global and Festival is we actually advise people. So people will say to us, oh, we wanted to enter this work. We'll then look at it and go, actually, we think it should probably go into this category. And interestingly enough, as Julia said earlier, the team have been up at 3 a.m. this week for the last 3 days doing our APAC judging. And there are two, I won't say who they are, but there are 2 gold winners which have come from the team recommending two submissions going into 2 different categories, and the ones they recommended have both won, actually. So we do have a bit of knowledge here in the team, not necessarily me, but everyone else in the team has wonderful knowledge. So you can always rely on our knowledge, and you should always be able to talk to whoever's running an awards program and ask for advice and help. Don't ever feel bad. No question is a bad one, and definitely people should be there to help you. In terms of the work, have a think about the eligibility period. So each program will have eligibility periods. Ours is usually a 12-month period where the majority of the work should have run before the end date. So some people come to us and say, oh, actually, we launched a campaign in the September and it ran until January, and the cutoff point was December. That's okay, because the majority was September to December. So you're good there. So again, always ask the question. So once you've chosen your categories, it's easy to move into step 2, and that is writing your entry, which people look at it and they go, oh my God, and like Julia said earlier, how many awards programs should you enter? How much work should you write? How many words should you write? Do you have to keep to this? And I, as a former journalist, you always kind of were, it was always about the what, the who, the why, the when, the where. Always keep that in mind when you're writing any entry. But like I say, a good credible awards program will have an entry handbook or entry templates. And from a M&M Global and a festival perspective, we tend to lay it out so you have objectives, insights, execution, and results. And each one of those has a word limit of around 250 to 300 words. So you can't go too wrong. Don't feel you have to fill up the 250 or the 300 words. It isn't a school essay where we were told you had to create an essay for 1,000 words. So you'd use as many long words as you possibly could and reiterate them over and over again. You don't have to do this here. It's all about being accurate, all about, like I said, the what, the why, the where, the when, and the how. As long as you've got that in your head and you avoid the hyperbole, the acronyms, and complicated explanations, these guys are looking at submissions, A, in the first round for 4 or 5 hours on their own, and then B, in the second round when they come together for the final judging. They're looking at these submissions and they just want stuff that's nice and easy to understand. They want to know and have it make sense. You're talking to these people not as if they're idiots, but as if they don't know anything about your business or what you've done. So it's always clever. And the other one, which is the biggest thing we see, people put together these amazing case studies and their objectives are X, and then we get down to the results section and the results are Y. And you're kind of like, well, what are these results going to do with your objectives? And judges automatically pick up on that and say, yeah, these results were great, but they didn't actually meet the objectives. So they've done all this work in the middle around the insights and the execution, and then the objectives and the results don't marry up. So that's a key tip for us. So they're your two pieces of advice on 2 steps there for finding your categories and for writing the entry. And then here we go. This is our new category. So we've teamed up with Julia and the Digital Voice team, who have been amazing. And we've created best use of an AdTech platform. So I've kind of broken this down. You can see the reason I was talking about the what, the why, the when, the where, the how. So why? So for us, effectively, we want to give AdTech companies the opportunity to enter their work on a global level, compare themselves with peers, rivals in the global sector, but most importantly, to give them that platform to amplify what they're doing as a business. And again, it's all about this getting in front of the key clients in the key times and saying, actually, we talk to brands on a regular basis when we're putting together the categories to understand where their work has been going this year and to kind of get an insight into the trends that are driving what they do. So it's very important to give yourself that chance to get in front of them. So that's kind of the why. The what, so slightly different to our normal entry piece. So we've got an AdTech overview of the platform. So you'll see an application form. On that application form, it's an AdTech overview of the platform, tool or service that you guys provide. So you've got 150 words to summarize your business, which is quite exciting. Then you've got the objectives. So what were you as a business tasked with achieving for the client? Again, 150 words there. And then insights, what insights did the business base its solution around? So actually, a client may have come to you and said, we're trying to reach X amount and we need to do it with this audience. And you've got a solution that will have got them there. So it's all about your solution and what you did. Then it's about the idea and the strategy. So, actually you took those insights and then what was your strategy for ensuring you reached those objectives? And then how was it used? How did the execution is, how was it used and what did it achieve? And then the last one is your results section. So actually, for the client, what did you achieve? Always a good one here in the results, I find, is always to see if there's some industry benchmarks and you can say, well, actually, I'm going to use a real basic one. The CTR rate was 0.5, but actually we achieved one of 1.2. Amazing. Judges love to be able to compare and contrast with current industry benchmarks. So that's kind of the why and the what does the submission form look like. Here's some entry deadlines for you. So we opened, we've got a few more weeks yet for our early bird, our standard and our extended. And people always ask us, why do you have those 3 deadlines? Well, the main reason was back in the old days, and even at Haymarket when we used to do Media Week Awards, we would have one deadline. And the problem you got was you'd get 5 people who would enter to start with, and then you'd have about 1,000 people who wanted to enter the day before judging was due to start, which becomes a logistical nightmare for the entire team because you're trying to ensure that your juries are inclusive. B, you're trying to ensure that the right skills of the judges are on the right categories. And that in itself is at least a 2 or 3 day job. And it's a nightmare when you don't know what work is coming into what category and where it is. So the reason you now see early bird, standard and extended is mainly to try and shuffle people to enter, so you don't get a massive tranche of entries. Inevitably, particularly from the bigger agency networks and some of the bigger brands, you get the calls, oh my God, even though you've been open for 4 months and we've been emailing you and phoning you every day, you're still not going to make the deadline. So we do bake a little bit of extra time in, but the idea is that we try to get everything in by that extended deadline. The shortlist judging, that takes place on the 14th of August, so it starts for 2 weeks. And what happens there, I've got a little bit on the judging after, but effectively the shortlist judging is your first round, if you like. Then you've got your final judging, where the juries come together as a group and discuss and debate and deliberate over the work that's been shortlisted. And then the ceremony this year is taking place at Group M's fancy new headquarters in Thursday, the 2nd of October on Southwark Bridge Road. It's a very, very nice place. We'll have views of the Thames. We'll be able to use their balcony as well if it's not too cold, hopefully. The where, submissions can be made directly via the website. So literally there is a link there to the categories. And then the how, simply take these tips and begin writing your entries is the key takeaway on that. And then I thought one thing that people always ask us is, how does the judging work? So we put together and spend a lot of time actually ensuring we have a rule where our jury aren't allowed to go back onto any of our programs. If they did one in 2024, they can't come into 2025, and we tend to leave a 3-year gap before they can come back again. So this is probably one of the hardest tasks for the team, is finding new jurors, ensuring, particularly on this global program, that you have all kind of sectors of society represented and all the countries around the world. So what we tend to do is we'll have judges from each of the different regions around the world. And the first round, effectively, you get given a link and a password onto our site, and you are assigned a certain number of categories. It takes about 4 to 5 hours of your time, but you have a 2-week period, and you are literally reading through the submissions and marking them. So the most is out of 20. So the cumulative score, so if there's 5 judges independently working across one particular category, and if the cumulative score was 14, that would be there 14 out of 20. Then what we do is, as we build the shortlist, we look at, right, out of 20, what was the top score in submission in that category? If it was 17, we then won't drop lower than 3 points below that. So we will go 17 to 14. Anything below 14 is cut off. And that's how your shortlist is created. People often ask us how that's put together. And then the second round of judging, which we call the final round, is where we bring everyone together. So we'll have a couple of live sessions, which is really lovely. So in-person sessions, and we'll have between 10 and 14 judges all around a table in a lovely location. And effectively, they're there for the day. You've got this encapsulated group of agencies and brands, and they will go through with a fine-tooth comb all of the entries. And this is the most wonderful bit for me, because you will see a judge and they will come in and they're adamant that this particular campaign or this particular piece of work does X, Y, and Z. And someone on the other side of the table will say, well, actually, I don't think that's true because of ABC, and they're looking at it with a very different lens. So what you find is the jurors are kind of being educated, are having their eyes opened. And I often refer to the judging sessions as like being in a conference with 7 different rooms, but you don't have to move to different rooms to get the different content. So it's a wonderful experience, and they properly discuss, debate, and deliberate these entries. And I think there's real science and there's a real process behind it, and it's very interesting having taken our format and placed it into women's football. And in women's football, they weren't used to something that had a real judging process. It was always, oh, if we buy a set of seats or a table, we're going to win. But it doesn't work like that. Any program that tells you that's how you win or that's how they win, just avoid them like the plague. But that's how our judging works. So that's what we'll be looking for on the AdTech platform. And I've probably just taken up all of your time, which I didn't mean to do, but I get very passionate and excited about this. So, I think that is the questions.
Perfect.
And thank you. And I will stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. And you can always take time because it's so engaging what you talk about. But I'm glad you stopped because there's been loads of action going on.
Oh.
I'm going to ask you some of the questions, and some of them I'm going to put to Katie, who's coming up next. So for those who joined us slightly later, coming up next is an amazing awards specialist writer to give you even more tips. But Jeremy, the glasses are going on. We're heading to the polls. So we have 2. I'm going to give everybody just another few minutes there's one ongoing, so I'll come to the close first. Vote on the one that's open. Jeremy, we're coming to the close one. Let me ask you what you'd answer this. What's the most important thing when submitting an award? Jeremy, is it results, storytelling, or relevance? Which would you vote for?
Oh, that is a good one. I would say the storytelling.
Did you see the results? Because that's the most popular from the audience. You can't cheat.
Oh, no, I didn't.
It is so true. Weirdly, I always say to people when we write an awful lot of awards as a business, the digital voice for our client partners, and I always say the one thing is, whatever the objective is, make sure the results match it. Don't make all these claims and then not have the results. The gorgeous bit in the middle is the storytelling to bring it to life and make it pop. But as a judge myself, I go, what's your objective? Did you deliver on it? Now I'll read the juicy bit. But our audience has decided it is storytelling with a close second on relevance. Producer Akini, please end the second poll and let's see the results. So Jeremy, how relevant are awards to your business? You're going to say 100%.
Yes. I mean, that is our business.
But are you pleased to see 72% of our audience today said it is very important, 27% to a degree, and no one said never enter, and no one said take them or leave them. I mean, we've got a slightly skewed audience here because they obviously give a damn because they're here.
Yes,
that was good.
Absolutely. Well, I love that. I love that. They're just being nice. I'm not really sure, but I like it either way.
Perfect. I've just got a couple of minutes before I bring on Katie, but I've got to ask you a couple of questions very quickly.
Yes.
I don't know if there's a right or wrong, if there's a definite answer, but how many awards should you enter a year? And another, let's just think about this way as well. How many should you enter per awards program, I
Yeah,
suppose?
very good question, actually. I always look at it and I go, what I always think, and we base, and maybe we're wrong, but we base it on the fact that actually, who are the jurors? I think that's the key one. Are the jurors and the history of the jurors that said programs have had, are they the relevant clients you want your business to be put in front of? And if the answer is yes, then 100% you could enter maybe 2 or 3. I don't think you need to go mad. I think it's
Because I think people
depending
make the
on,
mistake.
yeah, on what your business objectives are. It's all about kind of actually, we've got one piece of work that we think is brilliant and we could enter it. So you'll see, we often see with festival, winners of Festival of Media Awards tend to then go on and win at Cannes afterwards. And we've also found our LATAM award winners test themselves in the Festival of Media LATAM and then decide to enter Cannes if they win. So
Do that.
So it's all about, understanding who, I think, mainly the clients, and
Quality over quantity as well. Think about what you want
yes,
to enter. The next two ones, the ones that the audience have voted on 5 and 4, I'm going to hold those for Katie because I'm going to ask
brilliant.
Jeremy. I'm going to see your answer because I'm next on stage next to you. What sparked your decision to spotlight AdTech platforms? Go
Oh
on,
no,
Jeremy.
well, no, it was actually a couple
Or
of.
should I answer it?
Well, we can both go. I mean, I'm happy to give mine was the fact that we have tried many times to bring ad tech from an awards perspective into our programs, and we hadn't quite got it right. And I think the fact that the other categories you don't have to, but they all produce campaign videos, and I think that was just putting people off. So this year it was a concerted effort to create a category where they didn't have to produce videos, and it is based on the written submission, as opposed to having to have a video case study to bring it to life. So wanted to give it accessibility, and obviously ad tech is a big part of the industry, and I'm not sure it's served properly in awards programs that are as global as ours, basically.
I think you're 100% right. I mean, we're obviously there's the Digital Voice Visual Media Partner for this year, and when we were talking about a new category, we're sat there at the cold face, and we always think that ad tech gets a bit of a hard time a lot of times. And as you said, it's very, very difficult to produce a campaign when you're talking about tech and this complex platform that somebody else has put there. And I'm going to come to your question in a minute. It is complicated, and yet if you're a lot of times we look at awards and go, we really want to submit this client, this ad tech partner, but it's just not fitting in the right way. So this one is for ad tech. This one is for you. So I'm really proud of for you for backing it and for us for giving our support as well. So yeah, go on the ad tech players. And I've got to ask this question then, because I'm going to ask some of them to Katie, but my other question to you that's come through. Our technology can be a bit complicated. What is your tip for being clear and compelling in an entry? And Katie might take a bit of this one, but do you want to go with that? And then we'll ask you the judging question.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I refer back to this with my old journalist hat on, and it's always, and calling people idiots isn't the way, but it was always about actually if someone who knew nothing had just come from space and looked at what you offer and your solution, your platform or your tool, it's how would I write that out for them so they could go, oh, I get that within 4 lines. It's always about that who, the what, the why, the when, the how.
Yeah.
You get that right. So be as simple as possible. Try not to use acronyms. If you do, spell them out.
And we'll do that. I will ask, there's now 2 more questions. Hold that other one, Akini, because I need the top one for Katie. But very quickly, Jeremy, if we plan to enter our company, can we also apply to judge, or is it one or the other?
No, absolutely. We tend not to have too many ad tech judges on board, but we do have slots for 2 or 3 for each program. So yeah, absolutely, you can enter.
Yes to that.
One of the great things is if you judge, you then get to see what we often find is, and it becomes quite awkward at times. There's been, without giving away, there's a global brand in the room and there are agencies in the room, and the global brand's campaign does not go down very well with the judges. It becomes very awkward. So yes, it's a great place to be, and I wholly recommend judging.
I love it. I had the pleasure of judging a few years ago, and I was looking right and looking left and had some of the biggest brands in the room. It was amazing. Final question for you. If our entry wins at Festival of Media Awards, will it contribute to our walk and rec rankings? This is why I should keep my glasses on.
Oh yes,
What do you think?
yes they do. Yes they do. It's
Okay,
us. I think it's us and Just Can, who's all of the programs. You get so many points for Festival of Media and Can wins.
amazing. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Jeremy. I'm going to welcome you back on stage for final words in about 10 minutes or 15 minutes max. But we're going to come now to Katie Riley. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Julia. Good.
Oh, I just cut him off, but he was saying a big goodbye. I'm so quick on the dials here to bring on stage and take off stage, but I'm trying to keep pace here because I want to give time here to Katie Riley. I introduced you at the start, Katie, as this absolute unicorn that I discovered, which was finding a person who absolutely loves writing awards. And you're one, and I did give you huge credit, and it was justified as saying you're was hands down the best awards writer I've ever had the pleasure of working with. So I've got to ask you, how long have you been writing awards, and what is it that makes you so passionate about writing awards? Because most people go, "Oh my God, I've got to write an award."
Well, thanks, Julia. That was quite the introduction. But yeah, I've been in this kind of cross section of marketing, events, and PR for about 8 years, and I started to specialize in awards writing about 4 years ago. And I think the thing that makes it really rewarding is just getting to hear all of these amazing stories of work that's had impact, whether it's from companies or individuals, and being able to shape that into a piece of writing that ultimately gets that work recognized. It's just extremely rewarding when it happens.
I think no, and that's but I think a lot of people, Katie, find it the most challenging bit is the flashing cursor syndrome. How do you start drafting an award? So what are your key steps you take? Kind of, you've got a blank piece of paper, go.
Yeah, this is definitely, I think, the hardest part is starting. It can be quite overwhelming, but I think the key first step is to kind of make yourself a little template of the entry. You know, get the judging criteria, the section headers, any kind of description that the organisers give to help guide you in your writing. And if you know what work you're putting forward, just start to make rough bullet points in each section that's relevant to whatever the description is. And then at that point, I'd start to get in additional materials, your data, case study documents, that sort of thing, and start adding in a little bit more of the meat to the story. And then finally, once you've kind of got all that in bullet point form, have a little read through and try and find the central themes and where to focus to find that story that you can weave in throughout the different sections.
I mean, storytelling came out in the polls, so we know that's a big part of it. And I think obviously, and people tend to get that wrong and make it, you know, you've got to remember, judges are reading an awful lot of entries. I want something that talks to me and that stands out. But can you also pinpoint maybe 3 elements that you believe makes an entry stand out to judges?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, you know, the obvious one obviously is the results. You have to have your proof points in there and your metrics and that sort of thing. But I will say that no matter how strong the results are in a vacuum, the context is really important, and results are nothing without context. So that's why all the other sections are equally as important in my mind. And then I would definitely say, you know, being clear and succinct as well, making sure that you don't kind of waffle too much, using powerful language and short sentences, that sort of thing, and definitely getting a bit of personality in there as well. You know, don't be afraid to, don't try and sound too corporate if it's not necessary. You know?
100%. Do not use AI. It's vanilla, it's nonsense, it doesn't work. And the more personal, and I've also got one as well, because a lot of individual entries, if it's done as an individual, even if you're a marketing department of a really big company and you're expected to write the entry for a C-suite, you have to push back and say it needs to come from their heart. Because I judged the campaign 40 over 40. I had the pleasure of winning it in my 49th year. I'm now waiting for the 50 over 50s. But when we judged it the following year, it was really telling who'd written from the heart, and they really stood out. So I'd say the same. I'd back you on the succinct, kiss it, keep it short and simple, and just make it readable, relatable and relatable. Relatable and readable. That's hard to say as one. So with that in mind, Katie, let's talk about common mistakes that are maybe overlooked and how the hell you avoid them.
Yeah, so I think what you and Jeremy were talking about before is really relevant here. It's don't assume that the judge that's reading this entry has the inherent kind of industry knowledge that you have. Avoid acronyms, as Jeremy said, and just make it really plain, no jargon, as if they have no prior knowledge of the industry. And that goes for the context around, the current climate of the industry, whatever it is, the context, make it really clear, make it really simple, just to get that point across. And again, waffling is a big thing.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of awards programs they give you kind of tight word counts, which I think is actually really helpful because it forces you to think about what's actually important and adds value to that particular section. But when they maybe give you a lot of words to use, you don't need to use 500 words. You don't need to use 1,000.
Yeah.
If you can say it in less, do that. As you said, the judges are reading through a lot of different entries, so help them out.
Help them out. I set timers when I do it, and I won't say how long my timer is for each, but luckily I speed read. I've got a couple more questions for you, Katie, but I want to see the audience. Remember, over in the right-hand side, keep the Q&A coming, and I believe producer Akini is going to put a couple new polls coming in, and if you can put 2 new polls in for me, we'll then look at them with Katie in a moment. So keep the questions coming. So one of the things that I think, and by the way, AdTech, not using acronyms, can't wait to see how they get around that in their entries, because we live and breathe acronyms. But a lot of times, Jeremy and I were talking about why the AdTech category, and because a lot of the entries have all these campaigns and they require slick videos, and that becomes time consuming, costly, but also is not possible to do for some. But what supporting materials or data points can you do that have the biggest impact in an entry?
Yeah, so I think videos are impactful, but realistically, a lot of people don't have the time and resources to do that. So I think go all in on your images and your supporting materials. If you have images of a campaign, for example, make sure you attach as much as possible. I love an infographic because it gives you a chance to be creative and visual, but also getting some of those kind of key figures and metrics and that sort of thing.
The one thing I'd say, though, is I see entries and I'm like, oh my God, there's 4 supporting materials and I don't look at them all. So I would definitely put 90, let's do the 80-20 rule, 80% of your effort making your 250 to 300 words per category count more than the supporting materials. Don't encourage, because a lot of people know it's going to be stuff you've already got or already produced or case studies, but bring it to life as much as you can in the entry. That would also be my guidance.
Yeah.
We have to ask, I'm going to put you on the pressure here. 1 must do, 1 must don't. So
I'd say definitely tailor every answer to the question. Make sure that you're revisiting the question and making sure that what you're writing is actually relevant to what the question's asking. It's very, very easy to kind of get carried away when you're writing about a piece of work that's been amazing for your company. So just make sure you're revisiting that question and really tailoring the answer to what the judges are asking for. And then I think if I was to give one don't copy and paste like a case study or a pitch deck into these different sections, because it goes against what I just said before about tailoring your answers.
And the worst bit is when people do that, they use the wrong font and you can tell it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think that's really fair. Thank you, Katie. So last few minutes on the polls for everybody, but let's ask some questions. And if we can vote up, and I'm going to put my specs on so I can see this one. Okay, question 1. We have the most amount of votes for how can I make my submission stand out from the rest? And you've touched on quite a lot of that, but it's really succinctly, Katie. You've got to tell everyone here today, stand out. How do they do it?
Yeah, so I think it really is that storytelling, the way that you write your entry. Bring in some classic kind of storytelling techniques if you can. Don't be afraid to use that element of contrast, talking about your figures before the campaign, after, or before if you put forward a product or technology. The results before and after the use of technology to create that contrast. I'd also say one thing that a lot of people sometimes avoid doing with entries is talking about anything that was negative or challenging. And I think that's a mistake, because I think that you can talk about challenges and then talk about the breakthrough moment or when the team overcame it and how they did it and that sort of thing. And that just elevates the impact of the overall entry, in my opinion.
I love that. Thank you very much. Do you have, so the question to you, do you have a favourite award entry you've seen or done? Now, actually, if I could get Faith or Camelia, pop in the chat just the link to our awards page on the Digital Voice, because Katie, Hazel, Tommy, Adam, we have so many writing team at the Digital Voice, and they've all entered so many that are there. So you'll all be able to see what the work that's happened. And there's lots of different categories and different awards programs to give you inspiration. But Katie, for you, what's been your favourite?
Recently, I worked on the campaign Inspiring Women Awards, which was really lovely, and also the campaign 50 over 50. I have I do like writing awards for individuals, because it's like you say, it's nice to hear their stories and personal anecdotes on where they got to and how they got there, and being able to kind of shape that into a story is really, really enjoyable.
It never gets tiring to see people when they win awards and when they get shortlisted, and it's just as impactful, by the way, everybody, to get shortlisted. A lot of times you're shortlisted, you're one of 6. I should have done 1 in 5, and I'd have been able to do the maths, a 20% chance of winning. So, but just to be shortlisted, please remember that not everybody gets shortlisted. It's still a huge badge of honor. Katie, what are your top tips for nailing the entry for this category in particular for AdTech? Great question. Thank you for that one.
So I think for this category, you would likely be entering with a client. And I think it's really important to give yourself enough time to really write that with your client's input as well. Get them involved from the very start. It's super important to make sure that they're involved and you've got their input. And time as well to get sign off from all relevant parties.
Perfect. 2 more questions, then we're coming to the polls. I'm a waffler. How can you advise keeping it short and sweet? The kiss for an entry.
It's it can be hard. Now this might sound really granular, but this is what helped me. I used to be a waffler. Really kind of looking at your sentences and thinking about the words that you're using, and is that word necessary? Is that phrase necessary? This sentence is really long. Does that kind of middle section need to be there? Does it actually add any value or anything extra? If it doesn't, delete it. Be ruthless with it.
Love that. And if you can change and lose your waffleitis, then everybody can. Last question for you. How much time should be putting towards submitting an award, take into account team approvals, write-ups and submissions?
Wow, that is that's quite the question. I would say each award is obviously individual. They've all got different timelines and deadlines, but I would create your own timeline of what you want to stick to. Ideally, look at the deadline that you're aiming for, work backwards, and build in some contingency time, because you probably will need it, especially if you're working with a client and need approvals.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So let's have a look. If you can, close the polls now, please, Producer Akini, and then we'll go and have a look at the closed polls and we'll see what we've got going on. So the first one was, let's have a look. What's the first thing you check before writing an award? So you had the categories were judging criteria, fee prices, past winners, questions and word count, and judging criteria, which absolutely makes sense because it doesn't matter what people have done before. So I think that's a fair one that's actually been done. Let me just, there we go. Let's have a look at the other ones. Biggest pain points when writing an award entry: not enough time, too many cooks, results aren't as strong as I'd like, telling the story without rambling, or getting sign off or input takes forever. What one would you have voted for? For what's the biggest pain points when writing an award entry? Would you have said?
I think, from my experience, I think it's going to be getting sign off and approval from all
So
parties.
you voted with the audience. I would have said actually the results sometimes. I mean, a lot of people just don't have case studies, and we have to push back and go, it's great that your product's amazing, but everybody else's product company thinks their product's amazing. And we're constantly trying to say, make sure you've got results that back it up. Final one, don't look at the results, Katie. What's the most common award entry mistake? Your choices are fluff over facts, ignoring the brief criteria, lack of results, or poor structure design. What would you have gone for?
Ignoring the briefing criteria.
Oh, you were close on 50. Oh, actually, yeah, no, that was the top one as well. I was going to go fluff over facts. I like that one. I think a lot of people make that mistake.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. That has been really, really helpful. And I hope it's been helpful for everybody watching today. We're going to be doing a record. There is a recording of this, and there's going to be, I think you often do blogs on top tips, and we'll try and do a summary afterwards, won't we, Katie?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. You're very, very welcome. Producer Akini, would you just do me a favor? I'm going to take Katie off stage. Could you put on stage Jeremy for final bits and just a final wrap up, and then we will close out today. And we're actually going to do, just while I'm waiting for Jeremy to join me live on stage, we're going to have a few minutes, about 5 minutes, in the live networking floor, which on this platform allows you to go to the individual tables. If anybody wants to chat to Jeremy and Izzy, if anybody wants to chat to Katie directly, if you've got burning questions and you just want a bit of 1v1 time, we have a live networking. You don't need to do anything other than join us on the networking floor when I press the button in a moment. So, Jeremy, did you learn some stuff there from our mistress of award writing?
I did. She's great. We should be hiring her for anyone who wants to enter. She's fabulous.
Yeah,
Love that.
Or they go through the digital voice. That's the other way of doing it.
Yeah, love that.
I thought that was really interesting, and I thought the questions actually were really spot on for kind of getting under the hood of what it needs. I suppose I'm a little surprised actually that some of the questions that I thought might come up, I thought might be around how you manage expectations with senior leadership board teams, like around that question around I keep getting shortlisted but I don't win.
Yeah.
Everybody's blaming me that it's my award entry. I mean, how do you manage that, I suppose, in managing expectations, Jeremy?
Yes, it is undoubtedly a difficult one. What we do, and I'm sure Can does it as well, maybe they don't. I mean, we do it for free, is when we're in those judging rooms, not only do we record everything that happens, we make notes on everything the judges say. So we often do feedback, and we'll get a client who will come to us and say, look, we entered this many, we had this many shortlisted and we didn't win anything, why is that? And we'll go back, we'll look through their case studies, and we use the judges' notes, and we'll put together a little one-page synopsis for them and give them advice. And I'm not just saying that, but it has worked for a number of times with a couple of clients who since then have now won. I think Can or Effie's, one of them say that it's 3 years, is it, before you win, or something similar to that. I mean, I don't think there's a time limit on it, because the judges are always different, right?
Changing,
and they're constantly changing. Like we if you think about M&M Global, there's 4 different jury panels, all different, and there's some campaigns that have sat in one category that one group's had, another one in another group, and if the work is amazing, you'll often see it will win 4 out of the 5 that it's in. There are other times when actually one will win with one group and they love it, and the other group don't like it. So
don't like it. I've seen it happen time and time again. Also, Jeremy, just as a final question before we head into networking, is I think a lot of people just think the big guns are going to win.
Yes.
And actually, I would say the opposite, that the underdog often comes through. Like if you were in a room, and I was actually, when I was judging the Festival of Media Awards years ago,
yes,
it was often the underdogs that we're all like, yeah, but because that they haven't got the huge bandwidth and these amazing video graphics teams. So will you give some confidence to people that size doesn't matter?
Yes, 100%. There was, and our best example is in the LATAM one, that there was an agency down in Brazil, tiny agency. They entered 6, were shortlisted with 6, and won 5 golds.
Wow.
Which was more than, and I'll openly say, it was a network that had entered 35 plus, and they got shortlisted for 12 and 1 0. So,
oh no!
And it is all on the work. The good work tends to shine through, as long as you've, concisely and used all the points that Katie mentioned about making sure you're not waffling and you're to the point. There's a story, and again, like we both said, the key mistake is objectives. Being, we tried to reach this audience, and you get to the results, and the results are brilliant, but they had nothing to do with those objectives.
Nothing to do with that. So absolutely match it in. Any final dates, deadlines, final tips, anything before we wrap today, and we'll go to the networking, and either people can we thank you very much, and you can head off, but feel free to just pop in and say hi. It's really, really relaxed networking afterwards. But any final tips or dates or anything, Jeremy, to impart?
Yeah, absolutely. Start thinking, if you're going to enter, start thinking about the work, start talking to your teams now. We've got until I think it was the 3rd of July, so we've got a bit of time.
Yeah, we're testing your memory here, Jeremy.
Yes. So we've got a bit of time, which is good. And look, if you need anything from us, we're a small team, but we will happily answer any emails and provide any advice and help. And equally, Julia's got the wonderful Katie as well there. So, you've got some experts all over the field.
Oh, perfect. Bless. Camelia's very kindly put the key dates as a screenshot for you, Jerry. She's feeling sympathetic towards your 3 a.m. start. So, and thank you, Amber. Glad you enjoyed it. Thank you to everybody who joined today. And thank you behind the scenes to Izzy, Camelia, Akini, the production team behind this as well, and everybody involved. A lot of work goes into these little sessions, and we're very grateful for you joining us. And we'll pop into networking now, Jeremy, if that's all good with you.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everyone. Echoing what you said, it's been brilliant. We just front these things. This is the easy bit, right?
Yeah, but we have the easy job, 100%. I'll see you in the networking floor. Thank you, Katie, as well, for being an absolute star. Come and join Katie and ask any questions you have. Thank you all.